Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Sophie Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM's Facebook and YouTube Live in the main watch. Challenges of the elderly, especially when they have no one to help them. And in the second watch, what are the support systems for all those involved in domestic or intimate abusive situations? For our Facebook question, we ask, who, in your opinion, is in need of greater or more urgent help, the abuser or the abused person? Share your response in our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, here's our quote.
This morning's I quote: "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Winston Churchill.
Very interesting I quote there, Shivani. Thank you for that. The main watch will be back after this break.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Masks are effective only when used in combination with frequent hand cleaning with soap and water or alcohol-based solutions. Wear a mask that is lined with 2 or more layers. When taking it off, ensure you dispose of it properly. I'm Nigel Wilkinson from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
If you know about illegal guns, if you know about murder, if you know about drugs, gangs, or scams, connect with crimestopjamaica.com or call 311 toll-free. Don't tell us your name. Tell us what you know. A reward is offered for information that leads to an arrest. crimestopjamaica.com or call 311. Crime Stop. Solving crime pays. Crime is a disease, and you can help cure it.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I am Stokely Marshall. What are the services available to persons who are elderly and they are grappling with the normal everyday life challenges and find themselves all alone? And by the way, what are these challenges? Do we know or even care? And it's one thing when they have to help when they have some help to overcome these challenges, but what happens when they are all on their own, which can happen and has happened? And pretty sure it is happening right now as we speak. We have online this morning to discuss these matters pertaining to the elderly, very, very serious matters, Dr. Peter Ann Baker. She is a social development specialist. Good morning, Dr. Baker. How are you?
Morning, Mr. Marshall. I'm giving thanks. I'm proceeding quite well. Thank you.
A pleasure having you. And we were hoping to have online this morning Mr. Vander Palmer. He
Mm-hmm.
is the Director of Communications in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. I gather that he's not able to be with us today because of something that clearly came up, and he has an emergency, we are told, and so won't be on. He has an emergency, and we do hope to have him on in the future for a conversation like this. Now, Dr. Baker, you are a social development specialist, and clearly you would have.
Actually, Mr. Marshall, I should tell you, yeah, I'm actually a trained social worker. I'm a professional social worker, have been for over 40 years. My remit is actually fairly broad, which is why I use social development specialist, because when you say social worker, very often people only think about, counseling and so on and so forth. So, social work has many dimensions. Just wanting to point that out. Mm-hmm.
Not a problem at all. In fact, we thank you for that, because in your experience, in your broad experience, can you indicate to us what are some of the challenges that you have noticed? Even maybe if you even went on an assignment and that was not the aim, that was not the aim. The aim was not to see what was happening in relation to any elderly person, but while there, you would have
Mm-hmm.
seen so many things. What are some of the issues that normally jump out at you concerning the elderly, especially if it's a situation where they're all alone?
Okay. I think one of the first things that comes to me because of my training, it's not necessarily visible, but it helps us to understand what the situation is. And that is, we use the term elderly to refer to people who are in a span that is equivalent to almost half a lifetime. So that, and in fact, if you listen to the vaccination ads and so on, they say elderly, and they're talking about people from 60. And I'm sure that you have some 60-year-old listeners who are saying elderly. I'm not elderly. Now, why am I highlighting this point? I'm
Yeah,
highlighting this point because the word elderly suggests certain things.
yeah,
It suggests that you are frail, that you're unable to manage for yourself, that you're not perhaps, completely mentally sharp. We like to toss around the word Alzheimer's to go with any signs of forgetfulness and so on. But I don't know about you, but I've been forgetting things from, my 20s. So, and that is a problem because it then sets up a whole chain of events. So the first important thing I think we need to appreciate is that old age is I prefer to use the word old age and older persons, because
understand.
it covers a wide span. And in fact, the word elderly doesn't really come into play, if at all, certainly not for me, until you're at least 75. And usually it is with regards age 80 and over. Okay,
Okay.
so that's one of the first things. And if we understand those differences, then we will understand some of the differences in the challenges that persons at this stage of life will face. So the young old, right? The 60 to 75ers, many of them, if they used to be employed, if not at 60, by 65, they are expected to be out of the workplace. And
Generally,
that's a big,
generally speaking, with some exceptions, but we understand what you mean.
generally speaking, if you're self-employed, that's a different matter. You can, to some extent, choose when you step away from the day to day, and so on. Although family members, etc., may bring pressure to bear, and so on, because we live in a very youth-oriented culture. So
Interesting, Dr. Baker, you said that. Again, we live in a very what?
youth-oriented culture.
Very interesting, yes.
You know, so it is we make the old woman a go my yard.
Yes,
Hmm?
yes, yes,
When I hold on to the liquor work for him. Now see how much young people out the street want work.
yes, yes, yes.
Mhm. So the first thing you experience, which is not which if you have to be observant to realize, which is a challenge, is the feeling of rejection. A lot of older people feel that they are rejected by the community and they don't, and you can imagine how much more deeply that is felt if you not just live on your own, but that you are not connected to people in your neighborhood or the community around you, because many older people, even beyond 75, are perfectly capable of living on their own, and but living on your own is not the same as living alone.
Yes,
Hmm?
yes, yes.
So many older people, for many older people in that earlier stage, the problem is money. Because
I mean, yes, yes,
right, the little pension that they eventually get, because one of the problems is if you work in the public service, and even if you don't work in the public service, worse, you have to apply for NIS pension. It takes forever. And I don't mean 3 months, 6 months instead of 3 months. I mean 2 years or more. And in that time that you are waiting on your pension to come through, you are thrust upon on a level of need that you have never encountered before. First of all, the people then push you out of the little work that you did have. Hmm?
yes. You know,
No, you can't even get the little NIS.
it is, yes, we understand what you mean, Dr. Baker. It is horrible. Absolutely horrible.
It is demeaning. It is this. I mean, it is really bad, and it will put that older person into a serious state of despair, of depression. You know,
On a,
and
fe- on a feeling of feeling unappreciated.
not just unappreciated, rejected. Them dash
Yes,
me away.
yes,
You understand? And when we talk about old age very often, especially in what's the government doing, etc., we tend to focus on the material things. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, you need food to eat, you need somewhere decent to live, you need clothes for your back. Hmm? So I'm not saying those things are not important and we should not focus on meeting those needs. But sometimes, even when we overlook the other sets of needs, to me, basic human needs, to be treated with respect,
yes.
to be able to be an active member of your community. Those are basic human needs. So that's, to me, especially in the earliest years, when perhaps you have been in the workplace and you are withdrawing from the workplace, and even if you're self-employed, you might have children who feel, well, mommy, it's time to go home now, I can manage.
Yes, 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 yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes, indeed.
you don't go home, you're not tired.
So
No,
even
I'm
your
not.
own family, if you're not careful, can be a source of rejection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they want you to go home completely. They don't want you to come in a few days a week because you're going to come in and interfere. You know? But
But
when I was in charge, it used to be done this way. Who changed this? But those are sometimes expressions of insecurity, right? They're not trying. The older person is not trying to be interfering. It is that when you come back into a place that you used to be responsible for, and you see the changes that have taken place, you feel even more out of the picture.
Dr. Baker, I'm going to ask you to hold some of those thoughts. We're going to take a break now, but when we get back, I want to look at some of the other elements That's
Sure.
all these challenges for the elderly. We'll be right back on the morning watch. Don't go anywhere.
This is Love 101. The family station is now 7:15.
Okay, love, make a list. For the fritters, we're gonna need to buy saltfish. Okay, flour. Got it. Scotch bonnet. Yep. What about eggs? You're right. We do need some liquid self-contained investment packages that appreciate over time until a breakpoint results in delicious dividends. You writing this down?
When you use InvestorCore, you start to think like a stockbroker. Visit InvestorCoreJamaica.com to learn how. Powered by Sagicor Investments.
Slow internet not keep again. Switch and get 1 month free on Jamaica's fastest network. Speed on over to Digicel and try our 30-day Prime bundle free for 1 month. Loaded with unlimited YouTube, social media, and any use data. Wait, it gets better. Get enough more data to enjoy more of the movies, music, and sports you want with your Digicel lifestyle apps. If you're on the go, you can't afford to be slow. Switch to Jamaica's fastest network and keep your number. Visit the store today or message us at Digicel Jamaica on social for more details. Digicel, better together.
Wait, what you doing here? I come to start out a license. That little thing me I try start. But him no want help me. That's not right. You talk to the manager? Yes, say him too busy. But as a money man walk in, them run can't help him. Everybody have the right to fair and just treatment. That's how the constitution go. Come, we're going down there. And this time I have to help you and treat you with respect.
Everybody have rights. Brought to you by the National Family Planning Board and the Office of the Public Defender.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We're having a very important discussion this morning with Dr. Peter Ann Baker, Social Development Specialist, and the topic is challenges of the elderly, especially when they have no one to help. Dr. Baker, to sort of zero in on the topic a little bit more,
Okay.
we have been looking at generally at challenges the elderly have been facing. Clearly not an exhaustive conversation so far. Maybe this conversation cannot be completed, certainly not in one morning. But in terms of the elderly who, for whatever reason, have no one to help them, can you indicate any specific challenges that come across to you in terms of the things that will be very much on their minds, the things that are affecting them on a day-to-day basis, and where, if at all, do they turn to find any resources to assist them? Dr. Baker?
Okay, the last thing is the what you want to call it, disappointing, hardest part. But let's start. Okay, so first of all, it is important to remember that the majority of older persons, at least usually, I shouldn't say at least, usually up to age 75, are perfectly able to live on their own, to look after their own affairs. After that, depending on the person's health, then they may need assistance in some areas. And it tends to be kind of the need for help kind of move along, the types of help move along now what is happening in your life as you get older, in that 75, 80, 85, 90. So initially, the need for assistance is probably maybe in things like, the heavier parts of housekeeping, going to market, the going to shop, etc., etc. Then you may in your later on find that the issues of managing your financial affairs, and we hear every day about the agony that older people meet when they have to go to bank and deal with their money. They go, their money disappear, all kinds of things. So that's the financial part. The issues with the personal care and the issues for help around the house may increase again depending on the person's health. It's not because they are old, it is because there are physical and perhaps mental changes or conditions which develop, which means that you really shouldn't be around a fire. You shouldn't be
Yes,
cooking for
yes,
yourself
yes,
anymore.
yes, yes. Understood.
Okay? So then you may need some assistance with the housekeeping and so on. You don't have no problem sleeping in your bed by yourself at night, but you may need some help around the house. And
Yes,
I
yes.
will I will I will cut this. I will be brief on that. The services for that are non-existent in Jamaica. In other places, you have what they call home help services.
What they call assisted living?
No. Home help, where you have a visiting, and it doesn't have to be a nurse. It can be that the service is organized that every day or once a week or however frequently, this is someone who comes, who helps you with straightening up the house, who might prepare your meals for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the home help services. You don't have to be a practical nurse or any of those things. Then no, assisted living, I can come back to that very briefly if you want, but I just want to look at the person living in their own home.
Yes, yes.
Right? It's right. So one of the challenges, first of all, as that assistance, as the need for that assistance becomes greater, that you have a problem, as I said, because you really don't have that kind of service. It's something, for example, the churches could take up. You have a roster of people who are willing to visit, and not just their own members. I find this is a problem with some churches. I'm only interested in who in the pew and who they Saturday morning and Sunday morning time. So you go to help out Sister Marilyn, and Sister Vivian live next door in the same yard and needs the help, and you walk past and go back through the gate. So that's one. And I should say, again, bad news. Most of this assistance that older people need is not currently provided by the government. And I don't mean a political party. I mean,
we know what you understand, Dr. Baker. Yes.
Okay. So it is not provided. And why is it, by and large, why is it not provided? It is not provided because it assumes that there is that family will take care of their older folks.
And that's a massive assumption, That's a huge assumption.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because which of us don't have family members who have gone to foreign to make a better life or move to Kingston?
Sorry, Dr. Baker, I think there's a break in the line. Dr. Baker, are you there?
I'm here. Are you hearing me?
We're hearing you, but break in the line. I'm not too sure why. Let's continue and let's see if it will be resolved. Go ahead.
As best we can, yes. What I'm saying is the expectation is... Yes?
Go ahead, Dr. Baker. We're hearing.
Okay. I'm saying the biggest assumption and the biggest mistake is that blood relatives are available to look after older persons as they age and as their need for assistance may require. That does not happen in many cases. I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all, but it doesn't happen in many cases. And it is particularly a challenge I have found for older men, because within the community, even if you don't have a family member or the family member live just down the road, but them no pay you no mind, members of the community often will rally around and help an older woman who is in need. The older men tend to, and we have all kinds of wrong ideas about who men are um that we and that will make that another discussion. So, which is why you see on the television very often you see stories about older women, but it's almost as if the conditions in which those heart-rending stories come out are about older men more so than older women. So that's a big problem, and that is an issue that really needs attention, because truth be told, um, it is an important need, it's an urgent need, but it's not likely to be a need that the government is going to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to things like healthcare,
Yes.
for example. And a lot of older people, even if they were in quote unquote fairly good jobs, don't have private health insurance the same way like they don't have pensions from previous employment. Their pensions are usually very small or very non-existent. So it's hard for them to even say, I'm going to reach out and employ somebody to come and give me this assistance.
Right, understood. And in relation to why...
No, you are breaking up on me. No, anyway, go ahead.
We are really apologizing to our listeners for the technological challenges. I'm not too sure what the issue with the line today. However, Dr. Baker, can you assist us in terms of what can cause or lead to some of these persons finding themselves in positions where they're alone at those stages of their lives? At least anecdotally, what are some of the things that you would say are your findings?
Well, the first one is migration. People leave from country and come to town to find work. Okay. And then the other or they're going abroad. Yeah. So that's one consideration. And very often the younger members of the family are or get caught up in making their own lives.
Yes.
And they don't have an appreciation of the type of help and so on that might be required. And they're also, because sometimes if the older person is able to still do quite a bit for themselves, they might be quite resistant to having somebody come in. So you have the getting help on into the person's home is going to mean negotiation. Right? So you may get them to agree only to have somebody come in 3 mornings a week.
Yeah.
Okay, and then gradually they grow into it. You see, because and that's a big problem. Migration is a huge problem. The demand of finding work for the younger ones, the people, the 50s and the 40s and 30s and so on, also create a problem because they tend to move the younger people outside of the older person's immediate circle.
I see.
Right.
So Dr. Baker, in the few seconds that we have left, what advice would you want to, or what recommendation, if any, would you like to make at this time? Or recommendations you'd like to make in relation to how to tackle this issue once and for all? We probably can't do it on just one morning, but what recommendations would you like to leave with us today?
I think the most important thing I would say is that we need to stop paying attention, pretending that the number of older persons is or older people themselves are kind of a very tiny minority. The Caribbean in general, Jamaica, is not like the African countries, and not even like many of the some European countries. We have the proportion of older persons in our population is relatively large. Right now in Jamaica, we're at 11%. That means 1 in every 10 persons is over 60. We need to put the question of aging and the types of services and supports on the front page. we can't, it's not even on the back burner. It need to get on the stove, and we need to start looking at what are the things. And we need to listen to older people themselves who can very well tell us what their needs are, and or at least tell us how they would like their needs met.
Dr. Baker, we have to leave it there this morning. We're towards lots of time, but a very interesting and necessary conversation. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts, and we hope to have you again, Dr. Baker. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Good morning, what's after this break?
JN Bank Live Online Banking is your quick and easy banking that's safe and secure. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way. The time is
7:31 on the Family Station, Love 101.
Yo, my G. You see my number? Well, duh. Nah, man, me just switch my number to Flow. And got 30 days of unlimited data to do everything plus a free LTE SIM. 30 days unlimited everything? Yeah, man. Plus, there's more. After 30 days, I can activate any plan to continue enjoying unlimited YouTube, social, calls, and text to any network. We need all of that too. Yeah, you need to
switch to Flow and keep your number. Visit your nearest Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspapers to see what the Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here a very concerning story in the Jamaica Observer. The caption is Savagery. The police are probing 5 more allegations of sexual assault against children, among them 3 boys who have reportedly been molested and buggered, and the story continues. We turn to the Gleaner. The headline here, which reads, Hello, how George Wright greeted an MP on returning to Parliament. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, who, in your opinion, is in need of greater or more urgent help? The abuser or the abused person? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. For the month of June, our focus on the counselor will be on addictions such as porn, sex, and gambling. I'll have a special guest joining me to share about his former struggle with addiction to porn, what it did to him, and how he overcame. Maybe you have a similar story and need help to overcome that addiction. Mark Johnson, who is a former porn addict, will be here with me, the counselor, on Wednesday, June 9. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message, and let's start the journey to overcoming your addiction. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear, right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Don't cry, for I am is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Be smart and inform yourself about coronavirus. Follow accurate public health advice. Follow the news on the latest coronavirus updates. Avoid spreading rumors and always check your information source. I am Sarah Ann Edwards from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I am your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's join Shivani for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: who, in your opinion, is in need of greater or more urgent help, the abuser or the abused person? Or maybe they have comments even in relation to the first watch. Shivani?
All right. So this comment, Cherry says, the care for older people in the society is sad, and all they need is people who really love and care for them. Let me hear it from Nisi and Klarna. I think she has a comment for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the abuser need more help. Both need help, but I think the abuser need more help. Why? Because he's a danger to society. Because if that person leave him or her and they went out and get another person, they will abuse that person also. So I think that person really need help. I would say both of them anyway, because if the other one left, find the next person. They're gonna be feel so insecure, not even know how to work with that person, because every day you keep thinking, I wonder if him or she gonna abuse me as though the one before. So I would think both of them really need the help. Both. When you think of it, both of them really need the help.
All right. That's Nisi from Clarendon Stoke.
Shivani, any more comments, or that's it for now?
Let me see. Kayla Lewis on Facebook says, I just want to inform Dr. Baker and the wider public that tailored care is actually being offered right here in Jamaica. Break barriers, caring hands limited, tailored to their needs, personalized care. Okay, that's a point there. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Interesting, Shivani. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. And a lot more to discuss in relation to both the first and the second watch. We are now in the second watch. Just yesterday, we discussed the issue of men being abused and why women keep going back to the men who abuse them. Now, from that discussion, we realized that we really ought to look at the resources or the support services that are available to persons who find themselves being abused, whether male or female. And support not only for the abused, but also what can be done in relation to intervening where an abuser is concerned, with a view to ensuring that the abuser does not abuse again. Now, are there any such services? And if so, who or where are they? Are they effective? Can you reach these services when you need to? What are the challenges of accessing them and the challenges of keeping persons in these programs or in the relevant facilities if they so become part of them? We have back with us today to discuss this extremely important subject, Dr. Julian Mason. She is a community psychologist and lecturer in the Department of Sociology, Psychology, and Social Work at the University of West Indies, Mona. And we also have online with us Mr. Jason Downer. Now, Mr. Downer is the founder of Mogava, which means Men of God Against Violence and Abuse. Men of God Against Violence and Abuse. And of course, he's the president of Mogava. Good morning, Dr. Mason. Good morning, Mr. Downer.
Blessed
Good
Lord.
morning.
Good morning, Doc. Good morning, Stoke. Good morning, listeners.
Morning, Mr. Downer. Now, Dr. Mason, I will quickly thank you for all of your contributions in both watches yesterday, which I believe spurred us to do a program today to look at the relevant support services for persons who find themselves being abused, because it's often a missing link, isn't it, Dr. Mason?
Yes, that is definitely.
Yes, we can have a discussion about persons being abused and why it happens and why it shouldn't happen, of course. But then what happens? Where do they turn when they find themselves being abused? Generally speaking, culturally, we are trained to pick up the phone and dial 119 or, whichever emergency number. But in reality, Dr. Mason, what are the resources we really have available to us? Would you like to start?
Sure, no problem. And I'll start where you left off, which is the 119, because of course the police are trained in domestic violence and how to handle domestic violence situations, and they are an option for both the abuser and the abused, right? We have had, of course, anecdotally, unfortunately, I think the police will even admit it themselves, that there are oftentimes instances when, in calling the police for help, persons don't get the kind of help that they would want. I'm talking about in intimate partner violence situations. So, but it is an option, and definitely if somebody wants to go through the legal route to deal with the situation, then they're going to have contact with the police and make a formal complaint against their abuser. So that definitely is one option. And it's an option that people do use, if only victims will use it if only to try and have the current incident of abuse stop, to get somebody who the abuser will at least pay attention to and will stop the abuse within that particular sphere. But there are other supports for abusees. Unfortunately, not many for persons who are abused. There was a program some years ago, and I'm really glad to hear about Mogava. I didn't know of its existence. At least, there are options. There's also, in terms of both males who have been abused and males who do abuse. I know Fathers Inc. Also is available to lend at least some kind of emotional support, because quite often persons in these situations, they may, as we were talking yesterday, that persons may not want to be leaving the relationship thinking of the person who's victimized, and what they really want is a non-judgmental listening ear, some kind of emotional support. So that is important.
You said something very interesting. A non-judgmental. First of all, non-judgmental, then the listening ear. Because oftentimes you get a listening ear, but it is full of judgment.
Right. Yes. And that's very important, because again, most persons, I'm focused now on the victim, but even abusers, I imagine, they're not going to go to a formal support center. They're going to, whether it's family members or friends, they're going to talk to those informal support persons. And it's really important for the helpers to remember it's not about them, right? They need to focus on what does this person want. Today it may be just that they want you to listen to them complain and carry on, right? Tomorrow it may be that they want you to help them find a way to get out of the situation. So it's important just to keep the focus on the person, as it is in any other situation where you're helping somebody. It's not about the helper. And we have to, it takes practice, but we have to kind of remember that, they know their situation best, and we need to be guided by them.
Dr. Mason, only trying to stop you only because we're upon the break, and we want
Right.
to put down his comments as well.
Of course.
I gather he may not have the entire time with us this morning. We'll be right back on the morning watch. Don't go anywhere.
You're tuned to Love 101 at 7:45.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
Every time you share a Coke, you can express what is hard for you to say. Open one and start now. Collect and share our bottles to ask for a kiss, to promote change, to show others how much respect you have for them, to spread smiles, to take a sip of Coca-Cola, to sigh, and to fill the world with fun. Express yourself letter by letter. Look out for our bottles with the alphabet and share your wishes, feelings, and your joy with Coca-Cola. Open for better.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the second watch, and the topic is, what are the support systems? What are the support systems for all those involved in domestic or intimate abusive situations? And our guest for this segment, Dr. Gillian Mason, community psychologist, lecturer in the Department of Sociology, Psychology, and Social Work, UWI-Mona, and Mr. Jason Downer, president of Mogava. And Mogava means Men of God Against Violence and Abuse. Now, Mr. Downer, can you indicate to us, how do you see the whole matter of support systems for those involved in domestic or intimate abusive situations? Support, obviously, for the victim, the woman or the man who finds themselves being abused. And on the flip side, how do you intervene in terms of the abuser to, as it were, ensure that it doesn't happen again as best as possible, ensuring that it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, man. Morning again. First of all, I like your question thrown out to the public. My position on that is, one, approach intervention is needed for both the abuser and the abused. What is happening now, though, is that the victims get most, if not all, the attention. And that's why we have this cycle happening, because we take victim A out and there will be a victim B. So we need to throw some more resources, is what I think we're advocating for as a group. More resources in reaching the abuser, which in most instances are men. But again, as Dr. Mason mentioned, the approach is key, non-judgmental. And what I find personally, and even as a group, is that when you approach it from a perspective of, say, family violence, or not pointing finger to males who are abusers, you find that they listen more. Also, what I find is that many times we see the end result of a conflict, meaning the man physically putting his hand on the woman, but oftentimes he's first abused emotionally. But due to the lack of emotional intelligence and self-regulation, they act out. And so we need to deal with matters relating to that, which a lot of times go back to fatherhood and the modeling of conflict in the home and stuff. But we won't get there. As it relates to services, Doc pointed out the police, but a lot of people are reluctant to go to the police, especially men who are being abused, because they're afraid of being ridiculed. Secondly, police officers are reluctant to take up the matter, because oftentimes, just as we see, for example, with Mr. Wright's case, initial report, almost like a knee-jerk reaction to the situation, and then they withdraw. And so the police, and I know quite a bit of police, they reach a point is of, when you come to us, we hear you. So they want to see if you're really serious. And that cold shoulder rubs victims, the persons who come to make the claim, the wrong way. But there are other places, for example, you have Women Inc. Crisis Center. They have their number there, 929-2997. Of course, the Bureau of Gender Affairs have hotlines for both male and females. 1888 Protect, or females 5530372, or males You have also Victim Service Division. I have Choose Life, for example, as it relates to if it is. So there are those. But the truth is, as it relates to abuse, I think that's where we need to zero in on. Because many of these men, and we're talking especially men, because you know women are abusers as well. But many of these men really are conscious of the fact that they have a problem. It's just that there's no safe space per se. And I know the Ministry of Justice, they're working on a space for such a person. You know, you have offended, you have abused, and so they're working on a space for rehabilitation where that is concerned. I must say, I am hoping that the church will step up in this regard. And not so much having that safe space at the church, because whether we accept it or not, the church, for some people, depending on the problem, will feel that I'm condemned already. But I'm simply saying, create that space where men can go to. The same way how we push general mental health issues and say, men, it's okay to seek help. We need to normalize the whole thing of a man seeing, say, boy, I have a hunger problem. You understand? I need help, and I can go to a safe space where no one will condemn me. But I am able to speak freely and get the necessary help. That is what is needed, because we will continue to see the cycle.
You know,
that is the problem right here.
Two things, Mr. Downer. One is editorial, and the other, I'll just tell you about something that I
the other one is what?
One is editorial, and the other one is something that I just tested.
Okay, cool.
But, on the editorial note, I know you mentioned the case of Mr. Wright. I think you meant Mr. George Wright, Member of Parliament, who's now who resigned the Jamaica Labour Party.
Yeah, who turned up yesterday.
The police indicated that they closed the file. That's what the police indicated. So I am not seeing where the police indicated that they were not interested in the matter, but they said that they closed the file.
Well, I wasn't saying in that case.
Well, I understand, but I need to put that from an editorial. From an editorial.
All right, good. Understand.
So we have no evidence that they were not that they were
alleged incident.
Secondly, however, in relation to what I tested, I received something on social media with a number of phone numbers in relation to where you can call if you have a crisis situation of domestic abuse or domestic violence or intimate partner violence, as the case.
Right.
And I called two of the numbers just to see if they work. Well, one of the numbers went to a voicemail. That was the number for a female to call if she's being abused. It went to voicemail. The other, the phone rang for a while and then it stopped ringing. That was the number for persons who are male who wish to get assistance. Yeah. So let us paint a picture.
Yeah.
Someone, whether female or male, is being battered at the moment, God forbid, and they recall that there's a number to call. They look on their phone and they find it and they dial the number, and then it rings without an answer or it goes straight to voicemail. I mean, what signal is it sending? The person's already traumatized, Mr. Downer. So in a situation like this, we have the resources there, but how accessible are they?
You are absolutely, as a Dr. Mason want to come in, but let me say this. You are absolutely correct. As I call out the number, in my head, I was like, there is a reoccurring decimal, and that is persons call these places for help, and they're not getting through for reasons you have stated. And one of this has to do with really lack of personnel. And also whatever else the issue is, whether it's technical glitch, I don't know. But the truth is, aside from call in, there needs to be walk-in places, especially for men. And I think that is lacking. That I mean, a woman can be abused, and she, without even calling those numbers, there are places and people she can go and automatically find refuge.
It is culturally. I know I'm interrupting, but it is culturally acceptable for a woman to walk in.
There you go.
For help.
There you go.
For a man to do that is going to be seen as unmanly. But Dr. Mason, you are trying to come in. Please do make a contribution, please, madam. Dr. Mason?
She seems to be freezing.
She's muted?
No, it's frozen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I really wanted to hear what she had to say. She was trying to come in on a certain critical moment. While we wait on her to return, Mr. Donald, how do you see us going forward in terms of how to ensure that these services are available for persons who need them at the point they need them? Because especially if you're trying to seek that assistance at the height of the moment when the abuse is taking place and you're trying to literally escape. Mr. Donald?
You're talking the abuser? We have accepted that there's space, or culturally, we can see that a woman can find a space to go. We have accepted. So you're speaking more on the abusers end?
No, speaking about the victim, how to improve the service accessible to the victim. We'll have a little bit of time to look at the abuser after that, but the victim first.
Well, I do believe, one, we can start with our churches. I do believe our churches have the resources for women not only to call, but to find a space where they can go to physically to get the help, to take them out of the immediate situation, the immediate danger. There can be other community-based organized entities, but we can't just rely on the government, because we have been doing that. The numbers, as I highlighted, you have recognized too, that the truth is that in many instances it doesn't work. So there must be a level of access that someone can, a space where the person can physically go to. And I'm saying,
stick up in there now, Mr. Downer.
Yeah, man.
I know. Let's look at the abuse now. What is done on their end? I mean, we obviously know that there's criminal sanction for the abuse, because
the abuser.
For the abuser. I'm so sorry, for the abuser. But apart from that, to make sure they don't do it again, the remedial aspect of it. Any comments, Mr. Downer?
Well, what I will say is, one, let me draw to a incident that took place where a woman was stabbed by her boyfriend, and she went to the hospital, was to press charges, but she decided that she has forgiven him. What we're saying to the sometimes the charges are important to be laid, and it goes through the necessary channel, because that now creates an opportunity that when that perpetrator, when that abuser is taken in the system, that they automatically get counseling. That is very important. So it's not just to forgive, but allow the process to take place, because that can be a moment of intervention right there. As it relates to persons who just generally abuse, and we find that out, and on the surface of it, because they don't want to lose their woman, they say, boy, I'm sorry, I need to get help. Then the support system for that victim needs to act and also reach out to the abuser and ensure that he gets into a program. You understand? Because the abuse is not always one where we see the end result of a conflict where the man puts his hand on the woman, you know. But oftentimes the abuse starts from emotionally that the man first received. So the treatment must also involve emotional intelligence for that man. It's not just physically putting his hands on, but emotionally, how does he regulate how he's feeling? And so that's what I have to say. And I believe that resources need to be put there. And I am saying more so for the abusers right now, because we can find spaces, we can find persons to call on as it relates to the abuser, the abused. But the abusers is where we need to turn to. They more than likely they will reoffend.
Mr. Downer, does your organization? First of all, I'm checking to see if Dr. Mason is back with us. Appears her line was frozen. Dr. Mason. Unfortunately, maybe her line is still frozen. I'm not too sure what happened. Before we wrap, Mr. Downer, does Magava provide any assistance in any of these regards at the moment, or can do so in the future?
Yeah, man. Presently, we don't have a physical space as it relates to go outside of our office space, and so we have found a location, but we need funding for that. But we do in terms of online and via phone.
Let's hold it there for the time being. You can tell us more about that perhaps another time, but I'm getting a signal. We're totally
I
want to thank you, Mr. Downer, for being with us, and for Dr. Mason as well. I want to thank you for having been with us. We are so sorry that your line, apparently, I'm not too sure, we get the sense maybe the line was frozen or something like that. But I want to thank you, Dr. Mason, for having been with us, and see you, Mr. Downer, as well. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Thank you, our listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow to look at other topical and controversial issues. And please visit our Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and other Love 101 FM programs. And listen to the Morning Watch by downloading our app. and staying connected to us. Love 101 FM. This has been the morning watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guest. I am Stokely Marshall, handing back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Blinn.
Thank you. You're tuned to Love 101. The family station is 8 o'clock, and it's time